Now, just how is the Toon Invasion holding up? Make sure you guys have a good old time and smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So we get to look at some information from this championship event in Japan. Now, the reason why we're choosing to look at this is getting the opportunity to peer into the eyes of more of the competitive scene to give you more of an idea as to what's going on here is very, very interesting. Now, the most represented deck out of this top cut should be out of this overall tournament is, good old Toons. Toons have been running an absolute destruction path on the OCG. I'm honestly very surprised with this deck's level of consistency. We lost, a couple of FTKs during the last tournament ban list, which actually was a pretty big help with kind of bringing down the power level on things, which actually was very, very welcoming. Actually, I think everybody was pretty happy to see that. But as you can see here, yeah, Toons are still doing absolutely wonderful. The deck's combo potential is among some of the greatest within modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, you also see standing next to it, we have Cool Toon here. Now, while Cool Toon did lose some of its, consistency along the way, the deck is still very much intact. The OCG has found ways to basically keep this deck alive and, keep the meter running, as we're going to say. And honestly, I'm not really too surprised about that. When you were seeing players putting in the Azure Eyes Dragon, the new, or the Deep Eyes Searcher or whatever, to search for a level 1 tuner monster, you basically patched up this deck's problems with, one rotary. Thanks, OCG. We also do get to see, yes, we have the Elf Note strategy still here. Blitzclick is doing decently well in the OCG. We do get to see Witchcraft is still doing well. Sky Striker, Power Patron, and then one of decks here, which among those are Malice and DDD. So this is your overall participation pool. Now we shift into Top Cut. You're gonna notice some little interesting challengers here. First of all, where did all of our Cool Toon go? Cool Toon was a huge representation in the beginning of this tournament, and it just got blown out. It's no longer here, but we still see 3 Elf Note decks, holding it on into Top Cut, which is actually, pretty good that over half of our field topped. Both of our Blitzclick players ended up advancing into this. We have Sky Striker and only 1 Toon deck, and then you get to see one of the challengers out of the one-of pile advancing in here. Unchained found its way tearing through this competition, actually putting itself very well positioned here to be an invader within this this Top Cut. So, okay. So, out of nowhere, Unchained just comes and demolishes the competition. Now, what was this Unchained deck doing? Well, they're maximizing on a lot of the Unchained stuff. This deck has basically unlimited floating potential. And also, you get access into the Fiendsmith package. Now that they have the access to, the Buio stuff, who would have guessed, right? Having a free special summon extender, having a little bit more gas to keep going in the tank is pretty good. Those last little TCG exclusives that we had, the OCG said, oh, hey, if we combine these with the existing, Unchained pile after the new support, well, then the deck just reaches an additional level of power, which is kind of nice. We also do see the Invader of Darkness down here. That's definitely a really funny tech inclusion to be able to build into this. But overall, I mean, this deck is very impressive. The fact that, the Unchained stuff just being its own pilot deck, and also Vidos being able to tear through a lot of things, is pretty nice. We also do get to see Sky Striker with the Radiant Typhoon package. Now, this is a build that's been picking up a lot more steam in the OCG. The reason for this is just because, the Radiant Typhoon stuff cycles through spells like crazy. If not, it's a spell card that your opponent's going to have to draw their eyes on, and they're going to be like, well, I'm probably going to have to Ash that, or else, we're going to have a really bad time. And obviously, if I can play cards that do not hurt me in any sort of capacity, that further my deck strategy, sure, man, I'm going to take advantage of those. Obviously, this deck is playing 2 Desires, which I think is fine. We have 2 Pata going second down here to be able to bridge you on into a lot more of the powerhouse options for filtering, which I think is just fine. But overall, You know, Crown's an incredibly dumb card. You just have a lot of good cards present in this list, and obviously I'm not surprised to see he's doing well. Next up, we get to see the Power Patron strategy, and honestly, they now have Shade the Obscure. Yeah, right. It's really funny that the TCG and the OCG effectively got these near the same time. And the way it looks, you know, this card just slots right on into the Power Patron Elf Note deck. And it's able just to do, you know, wonderfully. I do see we are playing a lot more of the, I mean, Torpedoes in here. We have the Archmage stuff. You know, you are focusing on kind of that wider range of things for you to have access to. But let's also not forget the fact that the OCG has Herald. You know, they have Dark Strike Fighter, you know, at home, or the Infernal Strike Fighter. These cards do make some key differences within the pool of, you know, what these decks can do. And obviously, the deck having access to Herald does slightly give it a little bit more edge over, you know, I would say the more modern-esque stuff, but it's definitely not a crazy overhaul. It's good, though. And then we get to see, yes, another Elf Note strategy. Now, this one takes a different approach here. We are using the Synchro Trap card. Oh, boy, you know, I love seeing this trap card. I think having access to this is kind of a blowout emergency card for you to be able to kind of spin on through and be able to use in like the turn one. You know, your opponent tries to set up, you're like, no, I'm going to get an interruption established right away. That does have its own merits, all right? We're not going to discount having power access to that, because it does, you know, seem to be kind of important. Other things to kind of take note of, once again, the Infernal Strike Fighter is very good. See, they are playing the Jade Dragon mech. That does give them some better access into some of the more combo line stuff. And I see, once again, Vidos being present here to kind of, you know, check the Toon World deck from going too crazy. So that's your tournament results. Now, let's talk about the overall structuring of what players in the OCG are kind of looking at for, you know, going forward. A lot of them are still putting Toons in the S tier, and I don't really blame them for this. Toons, the power that this deck has definitely is a little bit more scary than your standard, you know, meta challenger. And I think that's fine. I think that as you're kind of venturing into the power that these decks combo up together with, then, you know, yeah, it's going to be scary. Combo decks are very scary, but that's why you look down here in A tier, we see both Cool Toon and Elf Note, both of which have extremely good combo potential ceilings, pushing things up just to be able to, you know, do what they need to do. B tier's Witchcrafter. Walpurgis made this deck way freaking better than you expected it to be. And the fact that, you know, all of your stuff can just barf out incredibly strong boards, and, you know, even if your opponent does cut you off at certain points, you just don't really get to see crazy boards being pushed out from it. We do get to see Unchained, Blitzclick, Mind Shuffle. The fact that Mind Shuffle has been kind of pushed down into C tier now is pretty interesting. But, I mean, you gotta remember, this is a world post the deck build pack where, you know, these additional new themes coming in really kind of shifted some of this stuff around, and that's pretty telling. We also do get to see Sky Striker as well in C tier, which is good. Malice is still holding on for dear meta, and I mean, like, that's crazy to see. This deck is in D tier, but it still consistently shows up and does things. We still get to see the pure Power Patron deck. You can still try to FTK with it. You just kind of have to do it in some like more roundabout fashions. And then Branded coming in D tier. That's crazy. E tier, we still have Yummy, Magnet Warriors, the Clown Crew, the Fairy Tale deck, and somehow RB is getting an honorable mention down here. Honestly, I think it's just because RB has good combinations of weird things that the deck can kind of do. A lot of people don't really want to give the deck any credit, but I mean, like, it still can do great things. But overall, I mean, like, yeah, this meta is an absolute dumpster fire. I'm glad to see that they have some differences between us, though, and that's actually kind of nice to see. But what do you guys think about everything? Please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. And you guys have a good rest of your day, all right? Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.